Hi guys, and welcome to the next lecture for Introduction to Programming Concepts. So what are we going to be doing today? Well, we're looking at how characters work and using ASCII. We're going to look at output and using printf. We're going to look at input and how we do that using scanf. And lastly, we're going to kind of write our first real program. So the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, or for short, ASCII. Basically, it's a simple system where every character is assigned a number or a numerical value. For example, the number 65 represents the character capital A, 66 represents capital B, and 67 represents capital C, and so on. Every character from a plus sign to the actual number 0 has this numerical value reference assigned to it. Here we can actually see every kind of character and the number that it references. Grab this chart from www.asciichart.com. Feel free to go there and check it out. You can see things like, a lowercase d is represented by the number 100, or an open bracket is represented by the number 40. I'm going to move on now to output. All programs in output their results. There's no point kind of running through a program, calculating pi to 10 decimal places, and then not telling the user what your answer was. So we need to output text to the terminal window. To do this, we use a function called printf. Printf. Basically, you go printf, open bracket, quotes, and insert whatever text you want in there, end the quotes, close the bracket, put a semicolon on the end. So printf, basically put this on the screen, we'll put that on the screen. Now, if we were to execute both these statements in order, we'd end up with an output on the terminal that looked like this. Insert text here and put this on the screen. They're both on the same line directly after each other, no spacing in between. It's not quite what we're after. We really need to put a new line between those two outputs, basically an enter in the middle, so it goes to each on their own individual line. So to do this, we use a new line character, which is a \n. So we go printf, insert text here with a \n on the end, and printf put this on the screen with a \n on the end. This we end up with insert text here on one line, then a new line, and put this on the screen on its own new line. So when printing variables to the screen, we can just go any text we want. The variable reference, basically it's a special symbol which refers to the data type. Then we go /n. The /n doesn't have to be there, but you generally will use it. Close the quotes. Now it's important now we have a comma and the name of the variable we want to print to the screen. So if we want to print out some integer data types, like char, we can use %c. This will print out, the char equals, and whatever that character is. So you'd say 65, you'd get a capital A out on the screen. However, we can also use %d to print out the actual numerical value the char is representing. So if, once again, we have the capital A stored there, using %d, we'll print out the value 65 to the screen. We can use a short, that's also going to use %d to print out the numerical value. So in this case, we're printing out svar's value to the screen. Now, svar could be any variable whatsoever. That's just the name of the variable for this example. Int %d, print out the value to the screen. For a long though, now it actually changes. We have to use %ld because this is a long int. So %ld for this one. You can see there we print out lvar to the screen using %ld. Floating point data types. For float, we use %f. You can see in the example there. And for double, since this is a long float, it's twice the size as float, we use %lf. So it prints out the value of the float. So an example of this, we include stdio, int main void, open our scope. We create x and assign its value to 23. So we go to memory, it creates a section for x, puts the value 23 in there. Now we're going to say printf x equals %d, new line, comma x. Now, printf actually says, okay, the first part, x equals, that's nothing special, so it put it out. When it sees %d, then it goes, okay, this is a special thing. So it pauses, goes and looks at the very end of this statement after the comma there and sees that there's the x variable. So it goes to memory and finds the value of x, which is 23. We put that value out to the screen. So we end up with 23 out on the screen. Then we return 0, so the program terminates and exits. Now input. For input we use scanf. Once again we use those same variable references, a comma, but for input we have to put an ampersand in front of our variable name. Very important we have that and symbol there, the ampersand. So once again for integer data types we have char, we can read in %c. This is expecting us to type in a character like an A, a B, a plus sign, a minus sign, any kind of character. And it's going to store that inside our variable there. I can do the same with %d for a char, and it'll actually store the numerical value inside the character. So for a short, we can use %d, scanf, %d. Int is also %d, and a long, we'll use %ld. So these match up to the exact same ones as printf. For our floating point data types, once again it's the same, so %f for a float, and for a double, %lf for a long float. So now we're going through an actual example of combining these two concepts of input and output together. So we're going to include our standard input and output libraries, which is stdio.h. We need that for printf and scanf. We're going to start int main void and open our main scope. Declare a variable called x as an integer, so we go to memory, create this spot for x. Going to print out to the screen, enter a number. So we're going to enter a number, it goes out to our terminal. Going to use scanf now to read in an integer and store its value into x. So on the terminal I'll type in a value like 10, then scanf's going to read that in and put it into our value for x. So x is now storing that number 10. The next line is printf, you entered %d/n. So you entered will go out to the screen. Then once again it says %d, it's a special thing, goes on the end, see there's an x there, so we want to print out the value of x. So it goes to memory, finds the value of x, which is 10, gets that and puts it out on the screen. Then we have return 0 and close bracket, so our program exits at that point. Alright guys, that's using input and output in C.